President Trump meeting with Ukraine President Zelensky, Vice President J.D. Vance a part of that meeting as well. I have been covering news for quite some time, and never before have I seen things become that testy during a live shot, if you will, at the White House between two world leaders. Joining us now to discuss all of what we just witnessed is Donte Mills, political strategist, back here on the Live Zone. Donte, yet again, I have never seen anything of the like.
Never. But I can tell you that was honest. And it was true from both sides. Clearly, there is a dislike there on both sides. And you have Donald Trump, who wanted to make it clear that he believes that Ukraine should be essentially bowing down to us and showing some kind of grace and being gracious to us for assisting them. And that's his stance. And it's a very strong stance. And he wasn't going to let this presser pass without making that clear. There was at one point where Vice President Vance jumped in and said, let's go back into a room and litigate this, not in front of the press. And President Trump said, no, let's do this right here. The American people needs to see this interaction and this attitude. So he's sitting there with a scowl on his face saying, you should be thanking me for all we're doing for you. And President Zelensky is saying, I am thankful, but I have a country to represent. And I'm not just going to do whatever you tell me to do. And that's why there's a headbutt right there. I think in politics sometimes, though, this needs to come out because clearly these two harbor these feelings. If they don't address it, you can't get past it. So maybe this actually opens up the relationship and allows them to be honest with each other and move past any bitterness that's there and get to the real issues of how do we end this war in a way that's favorable for Ukraine, but allows this to be settled and done with.
Very interesting take. I might add that President Trump made mention of Zelensky gambling, quote, with World War III. J.D. Vance, Vice President Vance, making mention that Zelensky has yet to say thank you. I personally heard Zelensky say several thank yous while they were going back and forth. Correct me if I'm wrong, but yet again, it appears as if the Vice President, in essence, scolded Zelensky as if he happened to be a child. And I hear your point with regard to putting this before the American people, but yet again, no man nor woman, I would suspect, yet alone a world leader, would like to be scolded by someone else before the masses, if you will.
I agree with that 100%. There is a respect level that has to be given. And you can tell that President Zelensky was trying to be gracious. He said, I said thank you a lot of times. But again, this feels personal. Vice President Vance mentioned that Zelensky went on the campaign trail for the other side, is what his words were. That actually didn't happen. He didn't go on the campaign trail. He just met with someone from the Democratic Party while the election process was going on. But I guess it can be viewed that way. But that just shows how personal this is, where they feel as if President Zelensky is not on their side and not their friend, so they don't have to be his friend. But again, I think for the sake of the world, for the sake of our country, for the sake of Ukraine, this needs to come out so you can move past it, because clearly there are some issues there. And we can sit back and say, you know what, everybody should have played nice or fake like it was okay in front of the media. But I don't know if that was going to get the result that was needed for those things to be put on the table so they can be addressed. That's the one thing about President Trump that you have to acknowledge. He's going to call it how he sees it. If he doesn't like you, he's going to tell you to your face. And that's what he just did. Sometimes that's needed. I think it should be done in a respectful way. I think it was important for President Zelensky to kind of stand up for himself in that moment, because he is the leader of a country, and you don't want your country members to look at you and say, oh, you kind of cowered on the world stage where you're supposed to be protecting us and standing up for us. And I think President Zelensky did that. But I also see clearly that President Trump wanted to make it clear that we hold the cards here, and without us, Ukraine falls. That's probably true. But I don't know if you rub it in somebody's face in front of the press, but he felt as though it needed to be said. Let's hope that opens up the relationship and allows everybody to get on the same page. Sometimes you just have to kind of fight it out a little bit and then stand up and be mature and move on. Let's hope that's the result here so that we can end this war. Our countries can come together and there'll be peace and people will stop dying.
Yeah, to your point, President Trump, last words, if you will, happen to be, you need to make a deal or we are out, meaning the U.S. will no longer support Zelensky as he continues.
Well, he followed that up with this important and clear. He said, if we're out, you may fall. And that's probably true. He wanted to make that point. It was the last thing he said. It's a very stark warning We'll see if he follows through with it or if that leads to Ukraine agreeing to whatever we tell them they have to agree to, because they know that that's the situation. If we're out, they may fall.
Wow. And we'll end with this, Donte. That is, there was also mention of Russian President Vladimir Putin. What if he reneges on the deal? We heard a reporter make reference to that within the crowd, the press pool, if you will. President Trump responding, what if a bomb drops on your head? What if anything happens? We don't have control of that. What we do have control of is trying to fix this current situation. Do you agree?
I don't. I agree to the extent that you can't control what anybody does, and who knows if Russia will at some point violate an agreement. That is something that's just kind of out of your control, and it happens. But what you can do, and this is the sticking point for President Zelensky, he wants guarantees. He wants it to say, yes, we can't control what Russia does, but if they violate this agreement, here is the plan of action. And I think that's reasonable for him to ask. If I agree with you, President Trump, if they violate the agreement, are you going to war with me? Are you going to continue to fund our war? Are you going to supply us with weapons if they break the deal that you want me to agree to? I think that's a reasonable request to have in this moment. Listen, I'm a lawyer. I draw up contracts all the time. The purpose of it is because what if things don't go as planned? That's why you prepare in advance, and that's the guarantee that President Zelensky is looking for. For some reason, Donald Trump doesn't want to give that. He's just saying, oh, everybody's going to do what I say. Don't worry about it. But as the leader of a country, I don't know if you can just go off of don't worry about it. You know, anything can happen. Who knows? That's not enough to be comfortable enough to come to an agreement.